Powerful engines, General Electric's F-404s, are each capable of generating 18,000 pounds of thrust, an astounding 1/4 of the thrust of the rocket that sent the Mercury spacecraft into orbit. The F-A-18's twin engines have built-in redundancy, so that if one engine goes down, the other can power the plane. Despite all the extra weight needed to land, launch, and keep the F-A-18 aloft, its power and small size make it the most maneuverable aircraft in the Navy's airborne arsenal. Racing at top speeds of Mach 1.8, the Hornet can also climb at a rate of over 45,000 feet per minute. Leading-edge wing extensions and outward canted tail fins stabilize airflow, while the wide range of motion in the ailerons, flaps, and tail planes give the Hornet unparalleled pitch and roll control. The F-A-18 is so maneuverable, it's the jet of choice for the Navy's Blue Angels demonstration squadron. These daring pilots have been flying the F-A-18 Hornet since 1986. The jet's speed and handling characteristics have allowed the team to add new maneuvers to their program. The F-A-18 can turn on a very tight radius and perform rapid rolls, all while also displaying the best slow speed ability of any Navy jet. But the Hornet's maneuverability takes a physical toll on the pilot. Its high-speed turns can create over 7.5 Gs. Under this stress, the average pilot feels almost 1,500 pounds of downward pressure on his body. To prepare for the rigors of flying an F-A-18, pilots at Lemoore Naval Air Station undergo intense training. One of the most grueling stages takes place in the centrifuge. Lieutenant Tori Campbell is the Director of Navy and Marine Corps Centrifuge Training. All new F-A-18 pilots must make it through her program before being cleared to take off in the jet.
So what we have today is a very typical class for centrifuge-based flight environment training, or CFET. We have 10 students. They are new F-A-18 pilots. They are winged. They are already pilots, but they are just beginning to learn how to fly the F-A-18. We're bringing them through this training. They get it at the very beginning of their training to teach them how to deal with the effects of the Gs, because the F-A-18 is by far the most capable aircraft that these young pilots have ever flown in.
The goal is to teach the trainee how to handle the high Gs while pursuing an enemy or bandit. The centrifuge contains an exact replica of the pilot's controls.
During this training, the pilot is actually controlling the device from inside of it. It's a 90-second profile. It's extremely challenging, as the pilot has to go ahead, track the bandit, and at the same time perfect this technique to enable him to go as high as 7.5 Gs.
Failing to master the anti-G maneuvers can be disastrous.
If at the point that the pilot begins to experience gray out and he does not correct the situation by improving his anti-G straining maneuver, this can progress to G-lock, which is gravity-induced loss of consciousness. During a G-lock event, the pilot is completely unconscious. Typically it's about 12 seconds, but it can be as long as 45 seconds. Probably even more dangerous than the G-lock is the A-lock, or the almost loss of consciousness. After an A-lock, the pilot, although having never lost consciousness, is completely confused, disoriented, and has no sense of spatial awareness. The lights are on, but nobody's home, and this is extraordinarily dangerous.
The high Gs pulled by the F-A-18 make time spent in the gondola critical.
This is an extremely important part of their training. A lot of the training, the survival training that pilots get, is only if something goes horribly, horribly wrong. But for an F-A-18 pilot, the skills and techniques that they're going to learn here today are things that they will use every single time they fly their aircraft.
Go ahead and step up here, sir.
To counter high Gs, pilots flex their core muscles and exhale sharply in what's called a hic maneuver for the sound the pilot makes. They also wear specially engineered G-suits.
What the G-suit does is when you're pulling Gs, basically it's pushing all the blood to the lower parts of your bodies, the lower extremities such as your thighs, your calves, and your abdomen, and it brings the oxygenated blood away from your brain. So what this does is create pressure around the biggest muscles, and also incorporated with the hic maneuver, the squeezing of your lower extremities, your biggest muscles being the thighs and abdomen. It pushes all that blood back up and keeps you from passing out.
I'm just going to have you sit here, sir. I'm going to take a look at your AGSM.
Okay.
So I know what's going to happen inside the gondola.
This FA-18 pilot in training is about to undergo the centrifuge's ACM profile. It's by far the most grueling. He practices his anti-G straining maneuver one last time.
Any questions? No. Looks good. Okay, and I'll get somebody to put you in.
Great. Go ahead and follow me, please.
Personnel in a control room monitor his breathing and blood pressure levels and watch for G-lock and A-lock symptoms.
Comm check, please.
Loud and clear, how mean?
Read you the same, loud and clear.
Restraint system?
All 4 locked.
But even with all the safety checks, once the door closes, he's on his own.
G-suit?
Plugged in, comfort zipper zip, no air first drive. All right, pilot is clean. Gondola is clean.
Okay, sir, are you ready to go to idle? Yes. It's going to be about 15 seconds till you feel it start moving. Breath?
The initial stages of the profile hover between 5 and 6 Gs, with breaks of minimum G tolerance in between. Then the pilot is taken to the FA-18's maximum G-force level.
Rest up as much as possible. This next peak is 7.5. I want you to pull the stick back and get on top of the G's as quick as possible. Bites on, get a good prep, 7.5. Keep it in, bury that stick, back, 3, 2, get him in the middle, sir. Hold it off, sir. Lock it up. Seal it off, sir. Breathe. Coming down this time, follow him down.
Today, the pilot maintains consciousness, but even the toughest aviators will feel the effects for as long as 12 hours, and this trainee will have to endure at least 2 more profiles before he's certified.
You can really feel like all the pressure going like out of your head and chest down into your legs, and you start straining. You know, you can see the lights start to come back on a little bit, but to keep working that hard to see is really tough. In an F-18 Hornet, it's really important to be able to understand how this training works, using the G-suit and the centrifuge, and understand how your body reacts to Gs, because you could be fighting somebody one-on-one in a real dynamic environment where you're pulling a lot of Gs and trying to look out over your shoulders and maintain a good look at so you see the bandit. Or if you're coming off a target and you have to snatch on a bunch of Gs real quick, then you need to know how to prepare your body so you don't black yourself out or go unconscious and put yourself in some real danger.
To maintain control during the most difficult maneuvers, the FA-18 contains a computer-assisted fly-by-wire system. Some pilots say it makes operating a plane more like a video game than traditional flying, but its impact on safety and handling is very real.
The F-18 is a fly-by-wire aircraft. In other words, as a pilot in the cockpit, you are merely a voting member of the flight control system. 2 flight control computers analyze inputs, digital inputs from the cockpit, from stick and rudder inputs, and then transfer that information to hydraulic actuators back here in the flight control surfaces to give you what you want. Merely a left turn isn't like in a Cessna where the ailerons, rise to meet you. In other words, a left turn here, this aileron's going to come up and that aileron's going to go down and we're going to turn left. Well, that may not necessarily be the case in an F-18. The flight control computers are going to say, okay, he's going this fast and he wants to go left, so I'm going to move these surfaces this way to give him what he wants.
The FA-18's fly-by-wire control takes the pilot's stick and rudder movements and interprets them. Separate computing systems evaluate the input and instantaneously decide what surfaces to move. If more than 2 of the computers fail, the pilot can manually take back some critical controls. If the pilot does lapse into G-lock during a maneuver, the FA-18's flight system takes over, automatically leveling out the jet's path through the air. This highly advanced flight system is just one of the striking contrasts between the FA-18 and other carrier-based fighters past and present. Perhaps the most legendary is the F-14 Tomcat. In speed, range, and sheer muscle, the F-14 is unmatched in naval aviation history. This fast, powerful jet was known as the king of the carrier deck for over 30 years.